Hello world, welcome to the first episode of What in the World is Going On with me, Ani Kasparian, and my lovely dairy-free Ben & Jerry's fudge ice cream. So, today we are talking about, oh my god, so good. What in the world is going on with the Biden administration? What have they done in their first, a month and a little something, maybe 2 months of their administration being in office? Thank you, Genesis, gracias. So today we're going to talk about the recent Syrian airstrike. And when I say Syrian, I mean the United States did an airstrike on Syria. So today is February 27th, 2021, I believe. Let me just verify that. Yes, it's correct. And recently, the Biden administration did an airstrike on an Iranian-backed militia unit in Syria. Now, these people, that the U.S. did an airstrike on, they are of the Hezbollah-Kataib sympathizing parties. Now, this is not the Kataib Hezbollah parties of Lebanon. This is more of the Iranian side. So, what happened? Why? So, first of all, why did Biden even want to do this? So, when Biden was asked why, he said he wanted to show Iran that they weren't playing around, if you know what I mean. He said that when the Iranians recently did something similar, they attacked a place that was a U.S. zone in the region that had a lot of materials and stuff, and of course it was destroyed. He's like, we just want to do something kind of similar to kind of get back at you and kind of be like, hey, we are not going to play around, so don't mess with us. Which is normal until you think about the Biden administration was trying to enter into a peace agreement with Iran. So it's you know what I mean? So it's still confusing. Now, airstrike. Did anyone get hurt? Yes. A civilian contractor in Syria got killed and many others were injured. And it's okay, so why would we do this if there was no real threat or potential danger, but then they still did it anyway, and they risked killing and hurting people, and they did it. So let's understand that part. So what had happened was the Biden administration is doing a lot of things that are seemingly questionable, that if Trump had done it, it would kind of be more in the news, kind of more in your face, because Trump is a showman, as we refer to him as in the U.S., because he's very addicting to watch. He's a character. Biden is kind of the typical politician, so you don't always really hear about those things that are going on, but there are a lot of things that are still happening that are possible human rights abuses, like ICE, the immigration centers. They're still happening. He hasn't abolished anything like ICE or hasn't made a peace agreement with Iran yet or anything. So what I'm trying to say here is just read. I want you to read, do your research, and see what you think. Would you have done that if you were the president of the United States? It's very interesting. I always like to explain what's going on because people don't know which side is which, and it's a little confusing. So, by Biden's attacking of this certain area, which was Iranian-backed, what are these people? What were those Iranian-backed people doing before? Well, let me tell you, these people were actually trying to fight ISIS. Like, what? Like, you would think that the US liked that, right? So it's a little like, right? So that's number one. Number two, these people, same dudes, right? These little dudes in that base that that the US just attacked, right? Those dudes were also the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad's supporters. So, again, if you guys don't know a lot about Middle Eastern politics, totes cool, I got you. So, Bashar al-Assad is the president of Syria, has been, and his father has been too, for years and years and decades and decades and decades. And this whole like revolution in Syria that you heard about in like 2011, that all started with him. And people are really interested in kicking him out because a lot of the people in Syria, the majority, they did not feel like they were having a good life within the country. It all kind of catapulted with a big drought, and the farmers came from the farms into the city, and then there was too much people, too much crowding, and it was just like, it just kind of exploded after years of inequity. So what you need to know in the world is that like religion is the face of the problem, but behind the scenes it's not about religion, it's about power and might. But to make things simple for our brains to see like which side is on which side, I will describe it in religious faction terms, but just know that literally we're all the same. Like, we all want safety, we all want peace, we all want our families to be healthy. Like, it's not that big of a difference. Like, so don't be like, oh my gosh, the Sunnis think this, the Shias think that. Bruh, all right, I have lived over there, okay? Everybody loves everybody, and if they don't, it's because they've been, first of all, they're fearful, right? They want to be able to feel secure in their own country, so they kind of just go to whoever they believe will give them that, and that's kind of where the divides start. So again, I'm going to use words such as Shia and Sunni, but that's not really what their religion means, you know what I mean? So, Bashar al-Assad, who is the president of Syria, is Alawi. And Alawi, in English, Alawite, okay, is a branch of Shia Islam, okay? In Syria, the majority of people are Sunni Muslim, not Shia Muslim. So, again, the president is Shia Muslim, the minority, okay? So, a lot of people were like, yo, this guy ain't working for us, okay? Like, we want a new government that can, like, help all of us, not just a select few, not just the Shias. And I'm sure there were also, like, Shias struggling too, but most of the Shias were doing pretty good, okay? Because, like, you know, well, I shouldn't say all Shias, I should say the Alawites, right? Because, you know, Assad wants some homie G's, right? So he was like, okay, let's get my people from my faction, and then, okay, we gotta protect the Christians too, because we don't want to make it this whole crazy religious war. So, okay, Christians, because you're a minority too. Okay, Armenians, all right, we'll protect you too. Okay, so we got the Alawites, the Christians, and the Armenians, who are Christian too, but you should know. And then, so they're all in this little, like, bubble, and then the rest of them are like, bro, I am Sunni Muslim, like, why aren't you, like, helping me and my family out, okay? And so, yeah, so that's why the whole revolution started, right? And in the beginning, Obama was kind of like, I don't really want to go back into the Middle East, I don't want to do that, because Bush had just been in the Middle East, and, you know, it went crazy, right? Like, it was, you remember, like, Iraq War, 2003, it was all insane, like, and they didn't find what they thought they found. So Obama's whole thing was, I'm not going back in the Middle East. So finally this whole like revolution happens, and for pretty good reasons, as quoted by, not in my opinion, but like as quoted by the world, they're like, okay, yeah, like the majority of a country doesn't have these certain rights, and their life is not of a high quality. They want a better life for themselves and their kids. Valid, right? So if their government is not giving them that, they have a right to protest, or they have a right to voice their opinion, right? So those people in the beginning were like, hey, y'all / rich countries / America, can y'all help us out by giving us support, money, weapons, whatever? Like, can you just like back us? Words of affirmation? Like, can you just... But Obama was like, ooh, I like what you're doing, but I really don't want to see anything because I just got elected president and I don't want to go back and re-enter the Middle East. Oh. And so they were like, bruh. So they were left to like their own defenses. So they had their own little like revolution, right? Like without us. And so we're all just watching like, oh snap, oh snap. And of course, the people in power have all the money with all the weapons. So, you know, as you can imagine, more atrocities happen. Cough, cough, lots of bombings on innocent civilian lands. And I mean innocent civilian lands. You know how sometimes you're like, oh, but there could have been like someone hiding in there that was like a bad guy. No, like legit innocent civilians. So yeah, so now America's watching, we're all like, oh, this getting bad, oh, this got really bad. So we decide to enter a little late, right? A little late. So we come in, we're just like, all right, y'all, let's help you. And that group that we're gonna help is the ones that were fighting for their freedom. They are now called the Free Syrian Army by this point. But by that point, the Free Syrian Army, because they didn't like, you know, have that support from a larger power like the US, they started breaking off into factions, right? Instead of being one big group, like for the people, they started going, you know what? I want this, and you're different than me, and I want the power. I don't want you to have power. So now, all of a sudden, they're like different groups. And when it gets disorganized like that, and some have weapons and some don't, who does it end up going to? It gets lost. Where does it? Who finds it? Terrorist organizations. Possibly ISIS too. Not possibly. ISIS did. Okay, so that's why like it becomes a power vacuum. We say vacuum. It's not like vacuum, robo-vac. No, vacuum meaning like no one's really in power. Now, of course, like Bashar al-Assad is still in power, but the revolution was so huge and so messy that like who is actually in power? We don't know, right? So that's when groups such as ISIS or other like other groups that have weapons start to come into power because they have weapons, right? The ones who have weapons are the ones in power, always, if you look back in history. So then they're like, sweet, a vacuum, a place where that there's not a lot of order. So then they start taking over big areas of Syria, right? So now everyone's like, and the U.S. is like, and the U.S. is kind of like, wait, why did we wait so long? Now we have the ISIS thing on our hands, you know? So this all connects to today with this like airstrike. So what I'm trying to explain to you is currently the U.S. is not really friends with the Bashar al-Assad government, aka the Shia government, aka the Alawites, aka the side of the Iranians. The Iranians, like the government, by the way, government, I'm talking about like politics, okay, y'all? I'm not talking about like the actual people. The Iranian government and Assad, the president of Syria, are like buddies. They're like, yay, okay? They also like their little like groupie. Okay, think about like cliques in high school. Okay, you got a little like table, and it's got like Assad, it's got like the Iranians, it's got like Hezbollah from Lebanon and from this like Iraq-Iran region. And they're all just like they're just like having a posse, right? And those guys, like, it's interesting that we actually didn't airstrike on an Iranian-backed militia thing, because we're against ISIS. When I say we, I mean Americans, right? Americans are against ISIS, right? But they're also against Bashar al-Assad. But these dudes that we just airstriked, they are fighting ISIS. So you'd think we'd like that, right? And then they're also pro-Assad, so we don't really like that. So it's like, what? And then like also like Iran and us, we weren't that tight with the Trump administration, because like the Trump administration was all like, oh, bye Iran, we don't trust you, and Iran had to like have self-control not to like push back at all the stuff we did during the Trump administration to Iran. And so like it's really important to realize like this is all such a mess, but what you need to know is that like no one's really innocent here, you know? It's like you have to really see why, what, how, and know and be critical, you know, of like what's going on. Like think about like, okay, so we are trying right now to make peace with Iran. There's a pandemic going on. There are people who are dying in Iran because they don't have enough resources and tools. We're putting sanctions on this country that have humans living in there. You know what I mean? We always think about the government and nuclear war and all that, but it's like there are humans living there that need COVID vaccines and they can't even get them. Like, oh, all right. So that's going on. And then the Biden administration's like, oh, we're going to be all like chill. Like, let's make a peace agreement. And then they like airstriked a militia run Iranian base. It's like, whew, like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, so I just wanted to do that as our first episode of What in the World is Going On, because I thought that was like a really interesting topic. If you've been listening and you have any questions, please write them in the chat here. If not, I'm going to be posting this so that you guys can rewatch it, ask questions, comment if you want to add anything, because yes, I'm a Middle East regional studier, scholar, whatever you want to call it, and I'm a journalist, but I know that there are always things changing and people have personal experiences, so like write them down. I am totally okay with being wrong, because it's all about education, it's not about me, okay? So please share everything that you have and you want to describe and talk about, because this is like a really important issue. We have to realize, you know, Iran sometimes looks like the enemy, right? It's like, oh my god, it's scary, bombs, ah! But the amount of self-control that they displayed during the Trump administration, when the Trump administration assassinated Qasem Soleimani, was insanely wow. They could have easily just sent some sort of attack towards us in some way, and they didn't. They were like, okay, we know that Trump is Trump. Whew, let's just take a breather. So it's important to recognize that and not just be all like afraid all the time, but just kind of like just really look at what happened. So hopefully that kind of clears things up so that you can have your own opinions. And yay, this is so much fun. I hope you enjoyed my dairy-free Ben & Jerry's fudge brownie ice cream chat and a new episode of What in the World is Going On. and I hope to see you back shortly. If you have any topics you'd like to learn more about, understand, especially when it comes to the Middle East, South and Central America, Latino issues, or the Francophone world, let me know, and I would love to answer your questions. Have a wonderful evening, and see you later.